truly secured without giving away amnesty? And the White House is answering those questions.
Right.
Today.
The White House is coming out and saying, listen, this is not amnesty. This is how you get a deal that meets people in the middle. You get border security and you have a solution for dreamers who, let's face it, we're not going to deport them. They're here already.
We have Raj Shah.
Let's see what Raj Shah, the deputy White House press secretary, says about this framework.
I think the president is showing leadership. The president has always said that he wanted a responsible outcome for the DACA population. It's a pathway that involves 10 to 12 years. They have to engage in the system. They cannot commit crimes. They cannot. They have to pay back taxes. We're going to end extended family chain migration across the board for all new entrants into this country. The president ran on fixing this problem once and for all. If this proposal becomes law, we're going to get a southern border wall. We're going to have thousands of more agents on the southern border. We're going to stop the flow of illegal immigrants and the flow of illegal drugs. And for that, in exchange for that, giving a pathway to citizenship for people that came here as minors, we think is a fair and reasonable compromise.
So the son of immigrants, Raj Shah, there, and this is certainly going to be a part of the State of the Union. So, Rachel, what does the president say to those dreamers in the audience on Tuesday?
Well, I think it's a perfect opportunity for him to say, I want to help you. I want to give you a path to citizenship, but we must, as a country, solve this problem once and for all. And I think if you get border security and you have a pathway to citizenship that satisfies the left, you have a deal. And then you can move immigration off the table, talk about what you want to talk about, which is the economy.
Great point. The left wants all or nothing. So he's called their bluff. But he does, I think, need to continue to reassure conservatives who have been told by so-called conservatives in the past that we're going to do comprehensive immigration reform. It's really just amnesty and maybe a little bit of fence and a little bit of that. Yeah. Sequencing matters. You got to get the wall and end to chain migration and visa lottery before you just bestow a pathway to citizenship to even more illegal immigrants than you thought. And I love what Raj Shah said. It's got to be one strike, you're out. If you're going to be given this amnesty, you're given this opportunity to citizenship, you better be the top of the top, the best of the best. You better be these valedictorians and military members of the so-called dreamers that the left likes to talk about. Keep them, but if you screw up, you're out of here. And then the wall truly being built is important. I think for conservatives, reserve judgment on the deal until you see what actually comes of it. Let the debate happen. But I think it's so great that on the right, at least there's a debate happening about a deal that can happen. Whereas in the left, they're like, you're racist. You're out. We hate you. It's like, how does that work?
Can I tell you what else is very dangerous about what they're doing? They're really rallying up the dreamers. Many of them are hardcore activists now. Yeah. And I think they're setting them up and with really bad strategy. I mean, we've seen, some of these dreamers, disrupting, the halls of Congress, calling the president a racist and chanting about him being part of the KKK. Yeah. That is not going to endear you to the American people who, by the way, through the president, have just offered a very generous 3 times the amount of people than Obama offered. By the way, Obama had 8 years to solve this. In just right after the 1-year anniversary, Trump is offering a permanent solution for them and a permanent solution to end all the illegal immigration in the future.
Yeah. And it's not only just it'll be interesting to see if they use that strategy to also name call on the other issues that the president's going to talk about in the State of the Union. It's not just immigration. It's also going to be jobs in the economy, infrastructure, trade, national security, infrastructure. How could it will be stunning to me if I am reporting on Wednesday morning that Democrats are attacking a proposal for infrastructure, perhaps the most bipartisan of all issues traditionally in Washington, because you're spending money and building roads and all that stuff. But we will find out if that same strategy continues.
Part of the infrastructure is building a wall, and they don't want to build a wall.
State of the Union on Tuesday night. It's the height of, as some might say, of Washington political theater. You see the Republicans stand and the Democrats stand, and sometimes they both stand, and sometimes nobody stands. When he's had such a successful and incredible first year, can the Democrats not going to stand when he talks about what's happening with our economy, with the low black unemployment, with the jobs that are coming back to our country? It's the crushing of ISIS. I mean, they're going to have to make some serious calculations about the way they play this, because they can talk all they want about Russian collusion, and you see it on the networks here wall to wall. Right. But the reality is Americans are feeling more optimistic about their country. He's delivered on his promises. It's going to be very interesting to see.
Maybe that's why they're not. Maybe that's why some of them aren't going. I mean, if you're Maxine Waters and the president president is touting how great, unemployment, the unemployment, how low the unemployment numbers have been for African Americans, you don't want to stand up and applaud, but you kind of have to. So maybe you just go, I'm not going to show up.
Yeah. What do you do?
Well, remember who he's talking to. He's going to talk to the American people, and Democrats are a little bit at risk of how they respond, because he is going to talk about things he has done for the American people, paychecks he has raised, security he has provided. And so if Democrats overplay their hand, it will be something that could potentially backfire on them, because he speaks to that camera, to the American people. He's not talking to the Democrats.
He's got so many great angles, though. What if he actually does quote Bill Clinton from 1995 on immigration and says, where are you now? Where's the party of that? And we cut you this amazing deal and pathway to citizenship. He's got some really interesting angles that he could play in this speech. And if you're that speechwriter, I both envy you and don't envy you, because you have one of the most difficult tasks in Washington.
And I do think he should speak directly to the Dreamers, who he's offering a deal, and their Democrat leaders are telling them not to take the deal. If you're a Dreamer, you're going, so why am I not supposed to take this deal?
He'll talk to the Dreamers and the conservatives in his own party and say, here's why we can both get what we want in a place that you need 60 votes in the Senate.
A lot more of that coming. But first, your headlines.
We got some headlines for you. The death toll now rising from the Taliban's suicide bombing in Afghanistan's capital. At least 103 people are dead and another 235 wounded. President Trump condemning the terror group, calling the attack despicable. He tweets, Taliban targeted innocent Afghans, brave police in Kabul today. Our thoughts and prayers go to the victims and first responders. We will not allow the Taliban to win. A man is facing terrorism-related charges after threatening Republican Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler. Jeffrey O'Loughlin allegedly calling her office saying, quote, use gunpowder and put some people in the grave. He's been charged with making a terrorist threat for the second time in as many months. Bond has been set at $50,000. And Roger Federer is at it again. Federer does it again. The Swiss tennis star capturing the Australian Open just moments ago, defeating...
Well, we're trying to pronounce that one.
Marin Cilic.
Yes, maybe.
Maybe?
I don't know.
In 5 sets after back-and-forth battle. It's the 6th time Federer has won the Aussie Open. And his 20th Grand Slam title. That's 4 more than his closest competitor.
Rachel, I love you, but I love watching you read sports headlines.
It's like me reading, like, Chinese phonetically.
Here come the sports.
Can
Let's
you tell
pop
I'm
the
not
popcorn.
sporty?
Let's go. Oh, you're the best.
That's great. All right. Still ahead. Liberal comedian Chelsea Handler taking another shot at women who support President Trump.
I know 53 or 54%, some argue, percent of white women voted for Donald Trump, and that made me sick to my stomach.
Those comments met with silence from the left. Why the double standard? We'll debate coming up.
Plenty of double standards. Plus, what does Charlie Hurt think of the president's immigration plan? He's a conservative, has supported the president a lot. It's going to be very interesting. We're going to ask him next. Tomorrow, President Trump expected to outline with more detail his immigration framework, offering a path to citizenship for 1.8 million DACA recipients and others in exchange for $25 billion for border security and measures on ending the visa lottery system and curbing chain migration.
Here to break it all down, Washington Times opinion editor and Fox News contributor and somebody I love doing shows with, Charles Hurt. How are you? Welcome this morning. What do you think of the deal? We've been debating it all morning. I think it's brilliant. What do you think?
Well, I think it's probably brilliant as well. It's not what I want as a conservative. There are a lot of things in here that I wish, there's a difference between a pathway to citizenship and a pathway to legalization. And I think that the 1.8 million citizenship is too much. And I wish that there was even more border security stuff in it. But that said, this is absolutely the most centrist immigration plan that we've ever seen in 30 plus years of these people in Washington arguing about this issue. This is the most serious issue, the most serious proposal where somebody has come in, looked at both sides and said, okay, I hear everything you're saying on the right, everything you're saying on the left, and here is a great meeting point in the middle. Let's all come together and do something about it. The fact that you have these Democrats calling him a racist, making America white again, and all of this stuff stuff, it's just preposterous, and it shows, in my mind, it shows that those people, they're not interested in actually striking a deal. They want to keep the issue, the broken system, they want to keep that broken because they can run elections off of it, and they have no interest in actually fixing the problem.
So for conservatives that are hesitant, because you have heard some criticisms of this, is sequencing or timing important, making sure that the security measures are in place so that when you give amnesty or a pathway to citizenship, you're not just recreating the problem when Washington undoes the security measures and keeps giving amnesty. Is that an important aspect of bringing conservatives on board?
Absolutely, because time and time again, even in 1986 with Ronald Reagan, the issue, they set up security and they set up legalization, amnesty. And of course, politicians love to do the easy part. They love to give out amnesty. But then when it comes to doing the hard part, spending money, actually figuring out how to stop the flow, politicians, they don't like to do that sort of thing. So they did the amnesty part in 86. They didn't do the security. And so we had 3 million illegals back then. And so then that blossoms to what we have today, which is, I guess about 12 million, but it could be much higher than that. We don't know. And for that reason, you have to be, if you're a conservative or any sensible American who cares about the borders, you have to hold politicians here accountable every step of the way. And the way you do that is you say the security has to come with the legalization.
Charles, real quick, does this present a problem for Democrats like Pelosi and Schumer going forward when they clearly are being exposed for simply not even wanting to come to the table and name calling? Does this make a problem for them when they have to go explain to their constituents, 800,000 of them that are dreamers, why they didn't even bother?
Even on top of that, what about the ones in the middle, the so-called moderate Democrats? Their vote is the one that's most critical in the Senate.
I think absolutely it is a real problem, and it was exactly what you all were just saying. If he goes out there tomorrow or Tuesday night and talking directly to the Dreamers, talking directly to those centrist Democrats, and they're not going to listen to this "Make America White Again" nonsense. They're going to be sitting there going, "Wait a minute! This is not only everything we wanted; it's more than what President Obama was suggesting."
Puts them in a very tough political spot.
Yeah.
Which is why they're screaming racist, because that's what you do when you don't have anything to say.
Charles, thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, guys.
Women in the White House coming under attack all week long, but the left said nothing. Why the double standard? We're going to debate that next.
Wynn has resigned, the committee accepting the casino mogul's resignation amid claims of sexual misconduct. Wynn has denied any wrongdoing. In a new report suggesting harassment by a former Hillary Clinton aide continued long after initial allegations in 2008, BuzzFeed now reporting that Burns Strider was accused of unwanted touching while working for a pro-Clinton super PAC in 2015. The so-called faith guru kept his job on the 2008 campaign despite similar accusations then. Rachel?
Thank you, Griff. Prominent women in the White House facing attacks from all sides. The headlines were filled with rumors about marital problems between the president and the first lady. This, as Cher tells Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders to, quote, stop dressing like a sister wife. And UN Ambassador Nikki Haley was the latest victim of a classic smear against powerful women, rumors of an affair, this time with the president.
It is absolutely not true. It is highly offensive. And it's disgusting.
Now, there was mostly silence from the left as the women in the White House faced these attacks. So why the double standard? Here to debate, Democrat strategist Christy Setzer, welcome, and freelance writer and former press assistant to Senator Rick Santorum, Lauren DeBellis Appel, welcome. Chelsea, so I'm going to start with you. This is an administration that no one can really argue that has put women at the top echelons of its administration, and yet we're seeing these really gross attacks. I mean, I'm especially troubled by the attack on Nikki Haley. Here's the UN ambassador being accused of having an affair with the president with no basis. This seems like a war on conservative women, and yet we hear nothing from the left on these attacks of powerful women. What do you make of that?
Was that for me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think the first thing to understand is who is making these attacks. Are they coming from Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, anybody in elected office for the Democratic Party? No, they are not. These are not Democratic attacks. I think that's the first thing to understand. The second thing to understand is that it is unfortunate, and I agree with Nikki Haley, disgusting. But the truth is that, and I'm sure, Rachel, you know this as well, any woman who puts themselves out there in the public spotlight, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or something in between, or something entirely different, gets unfair attacks on their appearance, on, you know, their views, on everything. If you don't believe that, I invite you to check out my Twitter feed after this hit. Those things happen, but they're not coming from the Democratic Party.
Right, but
and I think
normally,
that's an incredibly important distinction.
But normally when you see concerted attacks like this, and this question is for you, Lauren, you see concerted attacks on a group of powerful women in an administration, you would see normally other women within government coming to their defense and calling them out and trying to stop this kind of behavior.
Exactly. And I think, Rachel, good morning. This is a symptom of a greater problem. And I think what you're seeing here is that women on the left cannot wrap their mind around the fact that so many women in this country voted for President Trump. I mean, this is a president whose policies...
Which women are attacking them, Lauren? Which women? Can you name who's attacking them?
This is a president whose policies are good for women. This is a president who has put women in key positions in the White House. This is a president who has put women in key positions in the cabinet.
Christy.
These women are talented women. These women like Nikki Haley, she's come out and she's been attacked because when they don't have facts, they go for attacks.
Hey, can I give you some facts, Rachel?
Let me just stop for a second.
One fact, which is the fact that Donald Trump has appointed more white men to his cabinet and to office than anybody in a generation.
Okay,
if you look at the court appointments, 91% white males.
Let's just take a look really quick. Here's the point. Wait a minute, ladies.
His press office. Look at the West Wing. Look at his press office.
Wait a minute, ladies.
Hold on.
Ladies, hold on for a second. I want to take a look at this clip from Chelsea Handler. And you're right, it's not coming from government officials, Christy. But as you and I both know, culture leads politics. And I think Chelsea has a big voice and has a big influence on Democrat politics in some cultural ways. Wait, let's just play the clip and see.
In Democratic politics.
I know 53 or 54%, some argue, percent of white women voted for Donald Trump, and that made me sick to my stomach because we're voting against our best interests, whereas, 94% of black women did not vote for Donald Trump because they knew they would be voting against their best interests.
All right, one at a time here. I want to start with Christy. Here she is attacking all the women who voted for Donald Trump.
And she is allowed to, as someone who holds a public platform. But again, she does not speak for the Democratic Party. She may have voted Democratic. I assume she did. But, David Duke voted for Donald Trump, I assume, as well, right? Does he speak for the president? I would hope you would think not.
Okay. Lauren, last word on this one.
This shows the big disconnect between these liberals who call themselves feminists in this country and the rest of the women in this country. There's a huge disconnect going on here. They do not speak for all women, and they claim to.
Right.
I never did.
We're going to leave it at that and let our viewers make their own decision on it. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Rachel.
You got it. This is outrageous. A high school teacher and a city councilman slams our military in the classroom.
They're not like high-level thinkers. They're not academic people. They're not intellectual people. They're the freaking lowest of our low.
The fallout from this disturbing rant next. And we also have fun here at Fox and Friends, but today is officially National Fun at Work Day, and we're celebrating.
Well, actually, an iPhone. We don't use videotape anymore. But this city councilman, that's right, DHS and government teacher caught on video ranting against the military. Take a listen to this. He's a Pico Rivera Democratic councilman and a high school teacher at El Rancho in California. Listen.
Think about the people who you know over there. Your freaking stupid Uncle Louie or whatever. They're dumb. They're not like high-level thinkers. They're not academic people. They're not intellectual people. They're the freaking lowest of our low, not morally. I'm not saying they make bad moral decisions. Just they're not talented people.
Wow.
They're not talented people. So think about this. If a student is recording audio of this teacher, it's probably not the first time he has something like this to say.
Yeah, and we should point out, by the way, we've reached out to Mr. Salcido, but have not been able to talk to him because he is out of town. There will be disciplinary measures taken. We think.
Well, we've got a statement from the district.
Okay.
I don't know if we have it on
yeah, that's right. Put that up.
Okay.
Oh, that's what we just. Sorry, that is a statement. What I think was very fascinating. What I want to point out too is that is there any reporter first thing you do, because this is a city councilman as well as a government teacher, say, hey, this is an elected leader. They called the mayor Gustavo Camacho and Pico Rivera. Silent, no comment whatsoever. Perhaps because he doesn't know what to say, because this is abhorrent.
Hopefully
because abhorrent things that he said.
You know, as a parent, I generally don't like kids having phones in school. But this is really a case for why we should. I mean, a lot of times these teachers use their position in the classroom to indoctrinate their kids. And the only way kids can defend themselves these days is to record it and hopefully try and get some justice.
It's just so ridiculous. The lowest of the low, not talented, having served many years in our military with men that I know across this great nation, they are the most talented, the most courageous, the most thoughtful, the leaders of our community when they come back as well. I mean, it's but it's also so indicative into the mind of the left. I said this earlier as well. John Kerry once said, hey, if you don't study, you're going to get caught in Iraq. There's this idea that if you don't have any other shot, then you can go into the military and maybe make something yourself.
Right.
That's effectively what these teachers say.
Men and women laying down their lives fighting for people just like that teacher to say what he just said. We want to hear what you say.
Yeah, tell us what you think. Email us at, what is it?
Friends
at Fox News.
She never got the welcome binder.
Yeah.
Give her the Fox and Friends welcome binder so she knows the email address, which is right here, friends@foxnews.com.
But she got the headlines.
Right. I do have the headlines. President Trump confirming the controversial ban on importing elephant trophies from a pair of African nations will now remain in place. According to the Huffington Post, the president called the initial decision by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to overturn the Obama-era ban, quote, terrible. The agency's announcement in November was met with criticism from both sides of the aisle. A woman trying to visit her dying mother is removed from a United Airlines flight after an online travel agency cancels her ticket just before takeoff. Traveler Help Desk blaming a mix-up over the woman switching to an earlier flight from Colorado to Minnesota without telling them. Carol Amrich sitting on the United plane when she was told she had to get off. Staff not letting her buy another ticket. Amrich then choosing to drive to Minnesota. Her 80-year-old mother passing away halfway through her trip. She's accusing the airline of not offering empathy or help. Washington State issuing a new emergency rule to help protect illegal immigrant residents will no longer be required to provide their birthplace on driver's license applications. The decision coming just weeks after the Seattle Times reported the Department of Licensing was handing over personal information to ICE that could be used to arrest and deport illegal immigrants. And those are your headlines. Griff?
Thank you. While we have fun at our jobs every morning here on Fox and Friends, every morning. Today's officially National Fun at Work Day. Adam, you read. You get to read.
I get to read something?
Yes.
What better way to get in the spirit than with music? We've got Brian here, our morning DJ. In Crowd Control Entertainment, that's right?
Yes,
that's the company. And Glenn?
Yes, sir.
Our guy as well. DJing, music, always the life of the party. Is it fun to kind of control the party when you're in it?
It's always a good thing, and it's nice to be a part of celebrations and just keep the celebrations going.
Now let's get the celebration going now. Now you had me in that tease. We were ripping something.
Yeah, you were cutting it up before.
We were going like, let it roll. Let's hear this. Edge of Glory.
Wait, did that control?
Can I want it loud.
Scratch?
Yeah, you scratch.
Oh!
There you go.
Now, yeah, so when I hold it.
A lot of finesse right there, you know? Good.
All right, Rachel, where are you having fun?
Can we let's get a picture
drive,
of Rachel,
which I'm not good at.
Take a picture of me and Brian.
Just roll. Okay.
Ready? That's it. Floor it.
Oh my God, this is so fun. I told you I'm not good. This is actually how I drive. I'm terrible.
Yeah.
My kids
you
said,
clearly have played a lot of that.
My kids say I'm the worst driver in real life, too.
Well, well, while Rachel plays video games, and she's terrible at it, but I love her anyway, we're here with the Butcher Bar chef Matthew Katakis. Orlando Sanchez is going to be carving up. So Butcher Bar is here in New York City. You got a location in Astoria and a location now on the Lower East Side.
That's right.
When I think barbecue, I think evening, but you're saying you can do it for breakfast too, for a morning party here.
Well, being born and raised in New York City, brunch is a big hit, especially on the weekends. So we took our serious barbecue and we tied it into serious brunch.
Love it.
We're about serious drinks. We got some of the best Bloody Marys. You come down to the Lower East Side.
Wait, you didn't bring any Bloody Marys though. That's your only fail of the morning so far.
Exactly. So I apologize about that. We wanted to, keep it G-rated for the morning show. But we did bring you a bunch of stuff. Some of our brunch items right here. We have burnt ends with scrambled eggs. We have our home fries bacon, some organic greens, our French toast that we do Texas style. We have a Monte Cristo over here with pulled pork and brie, and then a nice fried egg sandwich with tons of bacon and cheddar over here. Beautiful comfort.
What do you call your burnt ends, by the way?
Double smoked beef burnt ends. The infamous burnt ends.
What's the meat candy? Is that something else?
Well, meat candy too. There's so many names. People love them so much. I'll tell you what, they're guaranteed to change your life, right?
They're changing my life right now. Seriously, fantastic. Coming to New York, check out Butcher Bar. We got to thank everyone down here making it National Have Fun at Work Day. Crowd Control Entertainment, Magical Productions Entertainment, and of course these two gentlemen from Butcher Bar. Stick with us. We're having a party all morning. Might as well have fun at work, right? So, all right, Dr. Sebastian Gorka's here. He won't be at the party, but he will be on the television screen.
Embattled agency now accused of withholding text messages from senior officials, including former Director James Comey and Andrew McCabe.
Here to react, Fox News national security strategist and former deputy assistant to President Trump, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Doctor, thanks for being here this morning. Really appreciate it. So this report is saying that the DOJ is withholding a majority of the FBI text messages, including some from Andrew McCabe. They're withholding them from Congress. Why would they be doing that, and what could this actually mean?
Well, Pete, the question is who made that decision? The FBI is an incredible institution. I've worked with thousands of its agents and analysts. But the problem is the management layer, what we call the seventh floor. We see it's riddled through with Obama-era appointees who basically have politicized the agency. If you look at the text messages we've already seen from people like Peter Strzok and his paramour, these are people who wanted Hillary Clinton to win the election and gave her special treatment so she could become the president. We need to see these text messages from Andy McCabe, because Andy McCabe is probably in contravention of the Hatch Act, given how he politically stumped for his wife, who was a Democrat candidate, got $700,000 from a Clinton buddy here in the D.C. region. So what do they have to hide is the real question.
Sebastian, you bring up a great point about all these Obama-era bureaucrats and appointees that are still in place. Why hasn't the president done more to move these people on, to fill his appointments? He's really behind the ball on this, and isn't this a wake-up call?
Well, there's two reasons. I've spoken to the president since I left the White House, and to his credit, he's taken a very hands-off approach. He is, by the Constitution, the chief law enforcement officer of the United States. People need to remember, it's not the Attorney General, it's not the Director of the FBI. The chief law enforcement officer is the president, but he wants them to do their work, give him a clean bill of health, because he knows that there's no collusion. He knows that he's completely innocent. So he's taken a kind of hands-off approach. And secondly, the other thing we have to remember, when we won the election, and then when we moved into the White House on January the 20th, it was a tiny group of people that won this election. This wasn't the establishment candidate. Donald Trump was the anti-establishment candidate. He was only accidentally the GOP's candidate. So, our pool of people to recruit was actually quite small.
Dr. Gorka, let me ask you, with the president's immigration plan coming out tomorrow and a lot of discussion going on, I want to play for you Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. She's from the Brooklyn district here, and she's talking about ISIS here. Take a listen to this. She made this at a rally here recently. Take a listen.
We're standing in front of a building that has become the headquarters for the Gestapo of the United States of America.
The Gestapo standing in front of the ICE headquarters there. What do you make of this?
It's an outrage. This woman should be recalled by her constituency. This is an insult to all the GIs, our grandfathers, our fathers who fought the Nazis of World War II. To say this on Holocaust Memorial Weekend is a disgrace. It's a disgrace to Congress and to her office. This is a woman who has no idea what she's talking about. The brave men and women of the Department of Homeland Security, our ICE agents, protect this country, and to compare them to the death squads of the Nazis, it makes me sick, Griff. It literally makes me sick.
Dr. Gorka, briefly, as everyone talks about immigration and the proposal brought forward by this White House, what's the big takeaway? We see the Democrats resisting it so far, but for conservatives and those who are wary a little bit of the 1.8 million number of the path to citizenship, what's the big takeaway they should have at the president's plan?
Look, the takeaway should be the president built his campaign on the wall on fixing immigration. He's tried to be open. He's tried to be kind-hearted. The Democrats have shut him down, but he's going to protect this nation. That's the bottom line, Pete.
Dr. Gorka, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doctor.
All right, coming up, Maxine Waters isn't just skipping the State of the Union, she's giving her own response.
Oh, goody. And so remember the veteran who offered to take her seat? Well, he's got his own address on BET Tuesday night in response to the president's speech.
Since Maxine Waters isn't going to attend, Army veteran Ricky Taylor asked for her seat and will now be attending thanks to Congressman Sean Duffy and his wife, our own Rachel.
Joining us now with more, that U.S. Army veteran who served 2 tours in Afghanistan, Ricky Taylor. Welcome to Fox and Friends. So glad to meet you over the television here.
Oh, thank you so much. And I just want to extend my thanks to you and just your act of kindness and letting me go to this. Thank you so much.
I couldn't be prouder to give you my gallery ticket. And you also get, by the way, dinner with my husband. It's on him, the beer, the food. I rarely get a dinner alone with Sean, so I'm a little jealous.
I did. I said I wasn't going to hold back either, so I hope he's ready.
Really quick, did Maxine Waters' office reach out to you at all when you originally sent that tweet?
No, I never did hear from Maxine or her camp. I really think she's more concerned with her personal vendetta against the president than to reach out to, a veteran who doesn't agree with her point of views.
Ricky, thank you for your service to this nation. Let me just say that first and foremost, when you hear Democrats like Maxine Waters, and she's not the only one that make these remarks, how do you feel?
I don't think they really are in tune with, the average daily American or, veterans like me. I think they kind of take for granted the position that they are in. And, I just think it's really unfortunate.
Ricky, some members of Congress are bringing illegal immigrants, dreamers, to the State of the Union. The Duffys are bringing a decorated military veteran. You have dreams, too. You love this country you served. What does it mean to be at the State of the Union at this moment?
For me, I just think the opportunity to go and really just be in awe at, what the president has done and to be there, and all of the people that are supporting me on Twitter and, veterans and just the regular American citizen alike, I'm just happy for that opportunity, and it's just something that I'll never forget.
Ricky, you're not going to forget, and I'm going to tell you, you really have brought together the country in a way that's very interesting, because the State of the Union, when Sean was first elected, President Obama was in office. Sean, obviously a Republican, not an Obama supporter, but the first thing he thought after he realized he won, the next thought he was like, oh my gosh, I get to go to the State of the Union. It's really an honor. And I think that your excitement about going, you putting out that tweet, accepting my invitation to take my ticket, I think really puts in perspective the way our country wants to feel about the State of the Union, which it's a unifying moment and it's an honor to be part of it. And your excitement is contagious.
Oh, thank you so much. I couldn't agree more. I think to go to something like this or to boycott it, to me, it's sacrilegious. I just couldn't understand why somebody wouldn't want to go.
Ricky, you're setting an example for a lot of people who are very short-sighted in their view of the honor they have to sit.
First State of the Union is on, while the battle over immigration reform intensifies on the Hill.
The president's plan offers a path to citizenship for 1.8 million dreamers, but according to Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, that's just not enough.
While the president last night sent out a couple of tweets that Democrats are not interested in border safety and security or in funding and rebuilding of our military. They are only interested in obstruction.
It's just preposterous. They want to keep the issue, the broken system. They want to keep that broken because they can run elections off of it.
The White House now responding after terror attack in Afghanistan. President Trump is saying in part, quotes, the Taliban's cruelty will not prevail.
The FBI under fire, accused of refusing to hand over key text messages.
It's just the latest in a string of controversies as that bombshell FISA memo could be released any day now.
This is a really extraordinary situation. We're going to find that the Democratic Party, this is kind of the first shot in the resistance.
That's when country comes to town. Here I come.
Who requested this fine tune?
I didn't, but I like anything Toby Keith, so I'm all right with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on.
Let's get your morning started because we have a busy week.
Welcome to the couch on this. It's Sunday, right? Sunday morning in January. We got Griff Jenkins, Rachel Campo-Stuffy. We've been here all morning. We're having fun because it's National Have Fun at Work Day. We're going to bring some of that to you today. You'll hear noises of arcade games downstairs. Ignore, if you will, while we try to. There it is, right there.
This Pac-Man.
We'll bring that to you later in the show. But there's a lot of news as well. That's a fail. I get that in my ear a lot. You just don't always hear it. We're glad to have you here, and a lot of news. We'll get to it right off the top, including preparations for the State of the Union. President Trump preparing to give that address on Tuesday.
We now know what he'll be focusing on Tuesday night.
And Ellison Barber is live in Washington, D.C. with the details. Ellison?
Good morning to all of you guys. The senior administration official says the theme for the speech is building a safe, strong, and proud America. The official briefed reporters and said the speech will be forward-looking, but they also said the speech is going to be somewhat of a, quote, victory lap. The biggest headline, the economy. In the official's words, it's roaring. The president will talk about jobs and the economy. That includes tax reform, tax cut, deregulation, and possibly college savings. He's also expected to talk about infrastructure, immigration, trade, and national security. 5 Democrats are planning to boycott the president's address. Representative John Lewis, a noted civil rights icon, said he'd probably skip the address because of what Trump reportedly said about Haiti and African countries during that now notorious immigration meeting. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg won't be there either. She'll be in Rhode Island speaking at a law school, and that's something that was announced in August, about 3 months before Speaker Paul Ryan announced the date for the State of the Union address. Griff, Rachel, Pete.
Ellison, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ellison.
Thank you.
There'll be a lot to watch for. This is the height of so-called Washington, D.C. political theater, and you have two polar opposites. You got the Democrats who have spent their first year completely resisting this president. So you see a few skipping the State of the Union. But then you see the incredible success of the first year, almost unprecedented with the stock market and the economy, a dichotomy that will play out as Republicans or Democrats choose to stand or not. We always kind of watch that and how often they do. Of course, you've got the destruction of ISIS as well, which is a pretty nice little footnote there. It'll be very interesting TV.
It really is. I mean, he just came off this triumphant trip to Davos that everybody said was going to be a big fail and turned out to be pretty awesome for him. And now he's going to take a victory lap on the economy and on ISIS. Something we don't talk enough about is what he's done in his first year. So you're right. The Democrats are going to have a hard time. How do you not clap when you hear about unemployment levels down so far for minorities, and you're sitting on the Democrat side? Do you clap? Do you not? Or do you just skip out like Maxine Waters?
Well, and what reporters like myself are going to be watching for is what the Democrats do when he brings up immigration. That is really, the elephant in the room. The president last night tweeting about what has been in his words, obstruction. Let me read you the tweets we got around 10 o'clock last night. He says, I have offered DACA a wonderful deal, including a doubling in the number of recipients and a 12-year path to citizenship for 2 reasons. 1, because the Republicans want to fix a long-time terrible problem. And 2, to show the Democrats do not want to solve DACA, only use it. He continued with another tweet saying Democrats are not interested in border safety and security or in the funding and rebuilding of our military. They're only interested in obstruction. that being the key word, obstruction there. Any way you cut it, and you look at this, it is the Democrats not even willing to address this opening bid and resorting to essentially name calling.
Yeah, they've shown their true colors. Democrats said, put your plan on paper. Then he did, and then it gave him three times, as you've noted, under the Obama administration, what they ever wanted, the amount of so-called dreamers, illegal immigrants who get to stay, and then a pathway to citizenship. And all they do, Pelosi, Schumer, left-wing groups, you're a racist. You want to make America white again. That response is so telling of Democrats, Rachel.
It really is. I've said for a long time, I think the greatest fear on the Democrat side of the aisle is that Donald Trump will actually take immigration off the table. Because really what this deal does is it resolves the problem with the dreamers that are here already, and it solves the border problem which started it, which means we won't have to come back to this in the future. And Charles Hurt agrees that the Democrats are not interested in striking a deal. He agrees with me that this was kind of a brilliant move on the part of the art of the deal president.
This is absolutely the most centrist immigration plan that we've ever seen in 30 plus years of these people in Washington arguing about this issue. And here is a great meeting point in the middle. Let's all come together and do something about it. The fact that you have these Democrats calling him a racist, making America white again, and all of this stuff, it's just preposterous. And it shows, in my mind, it shows that those people, they're not interested in actually striking a deal. They want to keep the issue, the broken system.
It's quite clear the Democrats are doubling down on obstruction here, even if they say they wanted it. Charlie Hurt in that interview also said, hey, as a conservative, there's some stuff I really don't like in here either, and I share that. It is a big giveaway, 1.8 million. You could classify it as amnesty, a pathway to citizenship. It could have been legalization. So was it too much of a giveaway in an opening bid from this White House? We will see. I think we should reserve judgment on that. But one thing that could be done is to make sure the phasing and timing is done properly. You can't give away amnesty and then hope eventually that you get these things, even if a bill was signed. We've seen that happen before. So make sure the wall gets built. Make sure you constrict chain migration. The visa lottery system truly ends. Then you can start on the pathway to citizenship. And it should be a one-striker, you're out. If you do one thing wrong as a so-called dreamer to get citizenship, then you've lost your chance.
That's fair enough. And I would say that the point you make about security first, amnesty second, would make sense under any other president, except this is a president who keeps his promises. I actually believe,
I'm not worried about the president. I'm worried about
president, except this is a president who keeps his promises. I actually believe,
I'm not worried about the president. I'm worried about a successive administration or two administrations
That's
down
why
the
the money is going into it. The money is getting separated. I know you're going to say, oh, we raid trust funds all the time, but it is going into a fund, and I actually believe he's going to do this.
I have no doubts about him and his commitment to security. It's everybody else.
But listen, the reason it hasn't happened in the past, Pete, is because the American people are exactly where the president is on this deal. Do something just go ahead and pull it. Do something for the dreamers. Fix the problem so we don't have to deal with another wave of dreamers in the future. That's what he's doing. Press Secretary Raj Shah actually trying to pacify some of the concerns that people on the right rightfully have. And here's what he said.
I think the president is showing leadership. The president has always said that he wanted a responsible outcome for the DACA population. It's a pathway that involves 10 to 12 years. They have to engage in the system. They cannot commit crimes. They cannot. They have to pay back taxes. We're going to end extended family chain migration across the board for all new entrants into this country. The president ran on fixing this problem once and for all. If this proposal becomes law, we're going to get a southern border wall. We're going to have thousands of more agents on the southern border. We're going to stop the flow of illegal immigrants and the flow of illegal drugs. And for that, in exchange for that, giving a pathway to citizenship for people that came here as minors, we think is a fair and reasonable compromise.
I think conservatives should fight to make it better, not fight to blow it up at this point, and then judge it based on the final product.
There's another story we got to talk about, too, that we're going to hear more about after the State of the Union. That is our Washington Post, back where I will be heading soon, has this headline today, if we could put this up. Trump sought release of classified Russia memo, putting him at odds with the Justice Department. This is very much a story that Americans are interested in because it's about the transparency in seeing our government at work. And Congressman Ron DeSantis talking about this memo that we've heard about, these texts. Here's what he has to say.
That memo's coming out, Judge, and when it does, it's going to answer a lot of the questions that you and your viewers have had about how did the Steele dossier come into the possession of the FBI?
Okay.
Did the FBI use it to get FISA?
Let me
and
ask
then
you
once
this.
that is public, then I think we have the ability to really press for people to be held accountable. I think that once the memo's released, I think that there's going to be calls for a special counsel, 2 sessions from all these committee chairmen who are involved in it, and I think it's going to be hard for Sessions not to do that.
To back up a bit, because we talk about memos all the time because we follow this day to day. This is the memo written by Devin Nunes and the House Intel Committee that lays out the FISA warrant process, how it may have may not been used by high-level DOJ or Obama administration officials to surveil the Trump campaign. Is there there? What were the motivations? What do we know? What are the names? This is a classified document. Your husband has seen it. A lot of people say there could be some big bombshell things in there, but until the public sees it, we can't really judge it. So the White House is agreeing with House Republicans that this memo should be declassified and shared with the public, which would be very revealing and could come as early as this week.
But the DOJ and the FBI are saying, no, don't release that. There's some stuff in there that American people can't see. So there's a big conflict.
Isn't Andy McCabe still over at the FBI?
Yeah, you wonder why they're not releasing that.
Well, and that's a good point, because the reason why we mentioned Andy McCabe is because, again, forget which memo came from where, whatever. The important takeaway is whether or not your government and people at the Department of Justice and FBI used political bias, for which we have been submitted to. The president is under investigation for more than a year.
Yeah, whether they used the dirty dossier paid for by the Clinton campaign as an excuse to spy on the Trump campaign.
So some of the guys who may have been a part of that process don't want us to see it.
Right, isn't that odd?
But Trump does. I think we're going to get a chance to see it, and it could be very revealing. Well, stick with us for the rest of the hour. We've got a good one, including rapper Jay-Z, now the latest celebrity to slam President Trump. Watch this.
Looking down on a whole population of people, and you're so misinformed because these places have beautiful people. Now we have Donald Trump, the superbug.
Superbug. And he did not stop there. Will flip Congress's balance of power in the upcoming midterm elections. They're staking a lot on this. The chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Cedric Richmond, saying, quote, "For the first time since I've been in Congress, I really think it's a real possibility. We're going to bust our butts to make sure we take back the House next year." But is he right? Here to break it down, pollster and editor-at-large for Ballotpedia, Scott Rasmussen. Scott, good morning.
Good morning.
So we hear a lot about Democrats feeling that their chance to get a lever of power is the House of Representatives. Update us on this.
Well, they do have a chance. I mean, let's be clear. My projections at scottrasmussen.com right now show that if the election were held today and you got a pretty decent Democratic turnout, they would fall just short.
This is assuming a good Democratic turnout.
Right, which is a midterm election. Sure. I mean, that's a normal thing. At this point, the Republicans would end up with 221 seats. Democrats would have 214. Paul Ryan would have an ulcer. Would that narrow a majority?
Sure.
And clearly, with a lot of time left, anything could happen. Far from certain.
But a month ago, these numbers may have been flipped and could have looked a lot different.
Things looked a lot better for the Democrats a month ago. In the Real Clear Politics average, the Democrats had about a 13-point lead on the generic congressional ballot. It's down at Real Clear to about 7.9 points right now. The latest Fox poll showed it being just a 4-point edge, and most of the recent polls are showing about a 6-point Democratic advantage. And as you know, when you go from a 13-point edge down to 6, not only is the trend good, that dramatically changes the potential in the House.
Changes the potential. So talk to us about some of those changes and why they came about.
Sure. Well, that poll, when the Democrats were up 13, it was before the Republicans had passed tax reform.
Got it.
A couple big things on this. First of all, it was the first time the Republican Congress passed anything under Donald Trump.
Yeah, they were a do-nothing Congress until
right. This gives Republicans a reason to say, well, I think it matters that our guys are in charge. The other thing it did, of course, it positioned the Republicans to take advantage of a turbocharged economy. They can say this happened because of our regulatory efforts and because of tax reform.
If people are richer come election day, that's a good thing for Republicans.
Especially if they're blaming.
As long as they're given the credit for it.
I was just going to say, exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing that's also helped, this shutdown was a victory for the Republicans, and as Donald Trump likes to say, you know, people like winning. I think it was bigger than that, though. They liked the fact that Donald Trump was fighting the Washington Post and the New York Times and the political class.
Sure.
he also had a better strategic understanding of what was going on. He really left the Democrats in a no-win position on the immigration issue, something that we're seeing playing out in tweets and the responses of Democrats ever since. Trump understood that instinctively going into the shutdown debate, and that's why he won.
Absolutely. Immigration tied into this as well, which we will get to. But first, we'll start with how Democrats have pushed for impeachment and what that means.
Yeah, this is the, it takes a little help from your friends segment of why Republicans are doing better. Tom Steyer and other Democrats really want to be talking about impeachment. And that sounds great if you're in the deep blue districts that the Democrats are going to win no matter what.
Sure.
Most of the districts the Democrats need to win to get a majority were carried by Donald Trump. That's just not the message you want to go into that with. You want to be going in talking about issues that are going to matter to those swing voters.
So you say they're being pulled to the left by billionaires like Tom Steyer who want to talk about climate change and impeachment, not wallet issues that hit these swing districts that they're going to need to win.
And every time that happens, it takes time away from talking about an issue that matters to you.
You got the State of the Union coming up, a big issue, immigration, but what can he do?
The president is going to continue to press his strategic advantage. Right now, he's got the positioning where he wants to make the grand bargain. Forget all the details. The bargain is pretty straightforward. Protect the dreamers, provide real border security. That's a position most Americans want. It's a position that extremists on both parties struggle with. But the Democrats, if they're saying we don't care about border security, bad place for them to be. So I think the president can continue to press this advantage.
And this last map shows us the current lay of the land. So you're conceding that Republicans likely lose some seats. The question
almost certainly
the question is, do they keep enough to maintain the majority?
And if you go back to the last 10 midterm elections, the Democrats would have about a 40% chance of picking up the number of seats they need to win control. So it could happen, just don't know.
Well, things can certainly change, as we've seen with
long way to go to
passing
November
and speeches given. We'll keep having you update us.
Thanks,
on the weekend.
Pete.
Appreciate it, Scott. Thanks a lot. All right, still ahead, Stuart Varney, Anthony Scaramucci, and Maria Bartiromo all coming up live. And the real-life story. This is a very cool trailer. I can't wait to see the movie. 3 American heroes who stopped a terror attack on a train. It's hitting the big screen. Our own Kevin McCarthy sits down with Clint Eastwood and the stars of 1517 to Paris. The real-life heroes. Next.
Tonight's ceremony, for the first time ever, our Fox affiliate in New York reports high-profile artists took part in an all-day training session led by the U.S. State Department. The briefing instructing them what to do specifically in the event of a terror attack. The move comes in light of recent attacks at concerts in Las Vegas, Manchester, and Paris. And police beefing up security ahead of next Sunday's Super Bowl in Minneapolis. Officers being brought in from surrounding areas, along with the Minnesota National Guard and 10,000 volunteers trained to spot suspicious activity.
Clint Eastwood's upcoming new film, The 1517 to Paris, tells the real-life story of 3 brave Americans whose quick action helped thwart a 2015 terror attack on a high-speed train in Europe. Take a look. Kevin McCarthy is a Fox News contributor and the founder of the Nerd Tears. He sat down with Clint Eastwood and the 3 heroes of this film who play themselves in the movie. That's very interesting.
Yeah, good morning to you, Griff, Rachel, and Pete.
Morning.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool concept that Clint Eastwood cast the actual heroes to play themselves in the film. And at the time, Spencer Stone was in the U.S. Air Force. Alec Skarlatos was actually a National Guardsman in Oregon, and the other gentleman, Anthony Sadler, was just a friend of theirs. And they were on a trip in Europe, and they were on this train. They stopped a gunman. There were 500 people on this train at the time. So Clint Eastwood's now making this film, and he's using the real-life guys. And I sat down with the 3 real-life guys yesterday, also Clint Eastwood, to talk about the filmmaking behind the movie. What's it like to play yourself in a film? But also, what is their favorite Clint Eastwood line of all time? But first, at the beginning of the interview, you'll hear Clint Eastwood talk about why he wanted to recreate the train scene on an actual moving train. Watch this. What challenges did that give you shooting on an actual train?
Well, I've done it before, and other pictures. I did it in Unforgiven, but it was a slow train, a period train. This train, it'll go 225 miles an hour. We clocked it. The highest we clocked is about 180, I think, when we were on it. But you know, sometimes it's going slow, sometimes it's fast. So it was lot of. We get on every morning, and go from Paris on up to Amsterdam, Rotterdam, wherever, and come back down, work our way back down.
I don't know, man. You ever just feel like life is just pushing us towards something? Like some greater purpose.
But like, how do you act like yourself? Like, I don't even know how I would do that. It's like almost like an outer body
it's
thing.
It's kind of weird because it feels like you have to like pick and choose a little bit what parts of yourself you want to share to millions of people forever.
It's an interesting dynamic. Like, you're constantly trying to battle your insecurities in your own head, but the key to the picture was, if I was being casted in it, was authenticity.
Since we're all playing ourselves, we were also like dressed the same in the same places. We were basically doing the trip all over again. And again, we've all been friends since we were like 5 or 12 years old. So it made it really easy for us because we just had to interact with each other the way we normally would.
What's your favorite Eastwood one-liner?
My favorite one-liner came from real life. Like, we were in between scenes and he kind of like looked over at me and he just like said, "Not a bad way to make a living, huh?"
And we can't top that, Anthony. Why did you go first? Get off my porch, probably.
Get off my lawn.
Probably Do You Feel Lucky, Punk.
What's your favorite?
I haven't done it yet.
Honestly, one of the greatest answers ever. I haven't done it yet. I was looking back at some of my favorite Clint Eastwood one-liners from Fistful of Dollars and obviously all the movies and Dirty Harry over the years. But I love that Clint Eastwood just tells these incredible stories of real-life heroes. And obviously with American Sniper was brilliant. I love the movie Sully as well. And he's just a really phenomenal storyteller. And the movie opens up on February 9th. And just to be in that room with those three guys and just learning about what they did going back to their childhood, the military training that two of them had, which led to that moment, and then stopping this terrorist that it could have killed hundreds of people on this train. Yeah. It's a really, really amazing story.
That's great. Kevin, thank you very much. We can't wait to see it. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
All right, moments ago, President Trump firing back at rapper Jay-Z after he said this.
Looking down on a whole population of people, and you're so misinformed because these places have beautiful people. Now we have Donald Trump, the super buff.
The president's new tweets next.
Plus, what does Stuart Varney, a legal immigrant, think of the president's immigration plan? Ooh, I want to know. He joins us next.
I want to know.
In the United States, America is open for business, and we are competitive once again. The American economy is by far the largest in the world.
That was the president on Friday in Davos. This tweet is just minutes ago from the president. He tweeted this, saying, "Our economy is better than it has been in many decades. Businesses are coming back to America like never before. Chrysler, as an example, is leaving Mexico and coming back to the U.S. Unemployment is nearing record lows. We are on the right track." Here to weigh in, Stuart Varney, host of Varney and Company on FBN. We're back in business and we're on the right track, says the president.
You ain't seen nothing yet, says me. Next week, anybody who pays tax, federal income tax, their paychecks go up next week. And you've got another round of bonuses coming, increases to 401k plans coming. You've got the big technology companies next week. They'll be bringing back hundreds of billions of dollars to the United States. Where's it going to go? Some will go to shareholders, some will go to the workers. You've already got a growth rate of better than 3%. Going towards 4% at the end of this year. That's what the president's saying. Look, we're open for business. Why don't you guys out in the rest of the world, why don't you join us?
Why don't you try capitalism?
He doesn't actually go that far, but he's saying, look, we're open for business. We're on the road to prosperity. Join us. And that was a naked plea for money. Bring your money here. Put it to work here. You'll do well. That's what he's saying.
He's a salesman.
Yes, a very good salesman, too. It was a very restrained, conciliatory speech he made at this Davos forum last week. And I think it'll be the same at the State of the Union message on Tuesday night. Conciliatory, come on, get together, we can get this thing done. That's what he's doing.
He also said America first, but America not alone. I spoke to some European friends of mine. You're a former European. And they said, we wish our leaders would do this for our country. So, people want a cheerleader for their country. And we have some good news. We have a great economy, a great place to make business. So I think it was a great message in Davos. It was pretty triumphant, if you ask me.
The president is no longer apologizing for America.
Yeah.
This president is saying, America's a pretty good place. Come and join us. We know what we're doing. And I think it's resonating very strongly.
Stuart, let me change gears a little bit because you are a legal immigrant here.
Yes, sir.
And this immigration plan is out there. What do you make of it?
I think America is a very generous country. It is not a racist country. And when I hear people label our country as racist, I actually take it personally. In my family, there are 3 races, 2 religions, and 7 nationalities. We are extremely American. That's us. That's what we are. And to be called racist is an outrage. We're not racist. We're a generous country. And I think President Trump's offer on immigration is a generous offer. Quite simply, it's this. You build the wall, you ensure border security, get rid of the chain migration, or at least change it, and you fix this lottery system. And in return, 1.8 million dreamers can stay and get a path to citizenship. He went further than most people expected him to go. Now, look, the right is going to reject this. It's amnesty. OK, got that. The left is going to reject it. OK, it's racist. I don't think they want to solve the problem at all. They want to keep the flow of Democrats coming into the country. But nonetheless, the 2 extremes will reject it. I think there are enough votes in the middle in both parties to get a deal based on the Trump offer of last week.
You're in pretty good touch with the base of the Trump voters. This is also a country of laws. He ran against amnesty. He said that's not what does he run any risk potentially of alienating some folks that said this is not necessarily what we signed up. Even if we trust you, President Trump, we don't trust Washington, D.C. to follow through faithfully on some of this stuff.
If there was a border security deal first, if security is in place first, then I think the country would be much more open to allowing the dreamers to stay. But that's a priority. You've got to fix the mess first. Otherwise, if you let the dreamers in and let them stay, if you do that first, then you're opening yourself up to the same old problem a couple of years down the road. Absolutely. The border is open, in they come, and you've got a problem. No, wall first, security first, then the dreamers stay. That's the deal. It's a good deal.
So if they get this, if the president gets this done, what is the economic impact of a plan like this?
That's hard to say. I think it would take a big political issue off the table, but it would leave open the fact that we are short of labor in this country.
Right.
With a 4.1% unemployment rate, you don't have many unemployed people to put into the workforce, and the workforce is expanding. So you've got to cross that bridge. But remember, even if you get this deal on immigration, you're still letting in 1 million legal immigrants every single year. And if we get this deal, we'll pick and choose who we want. What's wrong with that?
Listen, I'll tell you, nothing's
you.
wrong with that. And I think that's the problem the Democrats have. They are not about to let this president solve the immigration problem. Stuart, it's been great having you. You're always the best insight on this couch, especially when it comes to the economic news.
If you were picking and choosing now, I'd hope you'd let me in. But there's no guarantee.
Right under the wire. Right under the wire.
No guarantees. No guarantees.
You're in, Stuart.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
We're happy to have you as an American.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Turning now to your headlines. The Mall of America stabbing suspect pledging his support to ISIS as he pleads guilty. Mahar Abi Rahman's attorney reading this chilling statement in court. I want the reason for my attack to be clear to this court and to the public so that you may understand that you will never be safe as long as your country is at war with Islam. The 20-year-old is accused of stabbing 2 shoppers in a Macy's dressing room in November. 7 people rescued from the Pacific Ocean after drifting for 4 days without food or water after the ferry they were on sank. One of the survivors, an unconscious baby. A New Zealand Defense Force plane finding the raft, sending them food, water, and a radio. No word on what caused the ferry to sink. There were at least 50 people on board when it went down. It's believed there are no other survivors. It doesn't look like President Trump will be saving the date for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding. The president telling Piers Morgan he doesn't know if he'll be invited yet. Despite the apparent royal snub, he said, quote, I really want them to be happy. They look like a lovely couple. And they do. There have been rumors that Prince Harry will invite former President Barack Obama, though. President Trump firing back just moments ago at Jay-Z, the rapper, saying this. when asked about the president's alleged comments on African countries.
Everyone feels anger, but after the anger is really hurtful because you're looking down on a whole population of people, and you're so misinformed because these places have beautiful people. You know, the bugs come and you spray something and then they come and then you create a super bug, right? Because you don't take care of the problem. You don't take the trash out. You just keep spraying whatever over it to make it acceptable. And then, you know, as those things grow, then you create a super bug. And then now we have Donald Trump, the super bug.
Now, moments ago, the president tweeting this: "Somebody please inform JV that because of my policies, black unemployment has just been reported to be at the lowest rate ever recorded." And those are your headlines. You know,
important detail.
I'm sorry, I love Donald Trump. This is why, you know, people criticize him for being the first reality TV president. He understands culture. That was a cultural moment. By replying to Jay-Z, that message will get out to a lot of African Americans.
It sure will. So it's true, though. When unemployment's down, it benefits absolutely everybody.
That's right.
All right. Well, President Trump condemning the Taliban after dozens are killed in a suicide bombing in Kabul. But our next guest says Pakistan is the key player in the bloodshed in that region. Former CIA officer Gary Bernsen here to explain next.
Plus, Diamond and Silk will join us. I said Diamond and Silk. Don't get up from the couch. Don't move out of bed. Diamond and Silk are weighing in. And nothing's more important than that. That's coming up.
That's a lot of hyperbole, but I do love them.
Explosives through a security checkpoint.
Our next guest points to Pakistan as a key player in the bloodshed. Gary Bernsen is a retired CIA station chief. He joins us now to explain. Gary, explain to our viewers, you know, a bomb goes off in a secure area in Kabul, and ultimately where people are, obviously you've got the folks responsible for that, but people are pointing across the border to Pakistan to say, we don't fix this until we address that. What do you say to that?
Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
Part of the problem, of course, a larger part of the problem is that Afghanistan has been dragged into the larger conflict between India and Pakistan. Since partition in 1947, India and Pakistan have been at each other's throats because Pakistan was trying to seize Kashmir. Between India and Pakistan, there's a border, but they don't call it a border. They call it the line of actual control. That's where their military forces are. So everything Pakistan does is in the context of its struggle with India. So they've looked at Afghanistan, Pakistan has, for strategic depth. They want to control all of Afghanistan because their fear is if the Indians invade Pakistan, they want to be able to fall back into Afghanistan. And that was the reason that Pakistan created the Taliban in the 1990s. And at one point, the Pakistanis even thought about storing nuclear weapons in Afghanistan. How's that for crazy? So the point here is that with the Americans on the ground there, and the Americans have allied themselves with India, India is gaining an influence inside of Afghanistan. The Indians are giving like $1 billion worth of scholarships. They're doing all sorts of things there. This really makes Pakistan concerned and very, very worried. But the point is this is instability in Afghanistan or recontrol. If the Taliban were to seize control of Afghanistan again, the Pakistanis would control it. They would control that space, and they look at it in the larger narrative of their struggle with India. But the problem is they're killing Americans.
Yes.
The Pakistani support to the Taliban, to the Haqqani network, to any of these militant groups, these 24 militant groups that have operated over their borders, and the million jihadis that have been trained on their territory in the last 20 years, injures and hurts and kills Americans right now. And so therefore, President Trump's statements against them were spot on. We can't do anything here until this problem is fixed in Pakistan, and we may even have to start crossing the border more aggressively to deal with these with the Pakistanis if they don't stop this.
So is that the plan, Gary? Then I mean, look here. It's clear that Pakistan is providing for the safe haven for the Taliban. Let's just call it exactly what it is. Do they go across the border? I mean, let's not forget that Bin Laden was found basically in the shadows of Pakistan's version of West Point, and yet when we asked him where he was, he said, "Nope, no idea where he is." Do we go in? Yeah. What does the president do?
Well, the point here is we have to act against those militant organizations in those sanctuaries. And we can either do it or we can do it with surrogates. The point is look, I was the person that was the architect of what we did in Tora Bora, and the Pakistanis helped Bin Laden get out there too. So, so I was thrilled to see the the SEAL teams killed bin Laden at that point. But the Pakistanis have been playing a double game against America for the last 30 years. And so therefore, we need to cut them off politically, cut them off economically. We need to put significant pressure on them. And they have been significant sponsors of jihadist terrorism for the last 30 years, and President Trump is calling them to account. But the Pakistanis, they won't say it publicly. They'll say, oh, they think that they're like Elliot Ness, that they're fighting terrorism. They're fighting these people on their territory, and they have put some pressure on them. But look, they could turn over Siraj Haqqani to us tomorrow. They should.
Maybe if the president continues the pressure, we will get him back, and we should. Thank you for giving us a lot of insight in this. A lot of people don't know all the background, and you really were pretty amazing in explaining it to us. Thank you so much, Gary.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
President Trump set to deliver his first State of the Union on Tuesday. What should American people expect? We'll ask former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci at the top of the hour.
Plus, one group is making it their mission to help veterans get elected to Congress. They will unveil their first set of endorsements. Coming up next.
Needs a new generation of leaders. Leaders who sacrifice for each other. With Honor supports this new generation of veterans who run for office and pledge to work together and get things done, regardless of their party. Republicans.
The organization With Honor is making it their mission to help veterans get elected to Congress and put, quote, principles over politics in Washington.
Joining us now with their first set of endorsements is the organization's co-founder, a veteran himself, and the CEO of the organization, Rai Barkat. Rai, thanks for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me on.
So first, talk to us about With Honor, what it means. You served in 2005, 2006 in where was it, Ramadi?
Fallujah.
In Fallujah.
Yep.
So now you're wanting to continue to serve by starting this organization. What is With Honor?
Yeah, thanks. So no surprise, Congress dysfunction, record highs, polarization near record highs, and veteran representation is actually near record low. You know, it used to be as high as 70%. Now it's as low as 19%. The good news is that there are over 150 veterans, many of whom served after September 11th, who are running for House seats alone from both parties. And unfortunately, for many of these vets, the cost to run for office creates an incredibly high barrier. So what WithHonor.org is doing is we're helping to lower those barriers to entry, to elect a new generation who can frankly work together, get things done in this place, and but face high barriers to entry. So we're helping to lower those barriers.
Well, right, and you know, on your With Honor mission statement that I was reading about, it's not just helping veterans. You believe that there are things that veterans like yourself and Pete have learned in combat and their experience that really would benefit the nation if they were elected.
Yeah, you know, I've heard some people refer to this as a school of the nation, where, you know, when you serve in the American military, you serve with folks from all stripes. In fact, it often doesn't even, heck, most of the guys I knew within a Ford operating base or rolling in a Humvee, you don't know what their political party is. It doesn't matter. And, you know, that's what we need. We need to get back to that to help fix this place. Now, no one individual alone is going to do it. That's not the point. The point is to build a coalition, 20, 30, 40 members who are next generation, who can actually come into this hyper-polarized place.
All right, so we've only got about a minute here. You were going to roll out your first three endorsements.
Yes.
Two Democrats, two Republicans and a Democrat.
Two Republicans and a Democrat.
Who are they?
Kenneth Sheets, Van Taylor, and MJ Heger. And I'll tell you about Kenneth Sheets in particular is a inspiring
Republican in Texas, right?
He's in Texas. He served also in Fallujah in 05, 06. Came back, started his family, had a career in the private sector, and like many of these veterans, is running a hard race against folks that have more access to affluent networks, but is the right type of person.
A lot of these are challengers in open seats. Kenneth Sheets, Texas 5, Van Taylor, Texas 3, MJ Heger, a Democrat, Texas 31. So you started in Texas, and you'll be moving out from there.
That's right. With these, just stay tuned. WithHonor.org, these are our first endorsements. We're starting in Texas because that's the first primaries. They started as early as March.
Oh, so you tell me you're strategic. Did you learn that